This RealAg Radio podcast is brought to you by Authority 480 herbicide from FMC. Authority 480 herbicide provides extended activity on the toughest weeds like kochia, wild buckwheat, cleavers, Russian thistle, and many more. See your local retailer today for more information.
It's time for RealAg Radio on Rural Radio Channel 147 on Sirius XM. RealAg Radio and RealAgriculture.com is your home for insight and analysis of the issues that are impacting your farm business. Let's get real and get connected with RealAg Radio. Welcome to RealAg Radio here on Rural Radio 147, Sirius XM. Shaun Haney, your host here on this Monday edition of the show. Hey, thanks so much for making RealAg Radio and Rural Radio 147 a big part of your workday. It is great to be with you here on this Monday. It's the first Monday of February. Hard to believe, but we are here, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm broadcasting today from the home studio. Yeah, nice, but going to be on the road later today, headed to Cambridge, Ontario, speaking at a CCAN soybean dealer meeting tomorrow. Looking forward to that. Then Thursday, I will be in Brandon, Manitoba, with the Manitoba beef producers. Yes! Oh, great week. Great week, giving two speeches, two totally different groups, but it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it because we're going to, in both of them, and there is a little bit of difference because one's for crop people and one is for beef producers, but we're going to hit on like some of the big issues that are happening in Canadian politics, the U.S. election, geopolitical stuff, the markets, ag policy. I'm looking forward to it. And the best part is the audience asking questions. So, that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to this week out and about on the road, interacting with you, the RealAgriculture.com and RealAg Radio audience. Well, okay, today on the show, we've got some agronomics for you. We are going to have time at the back end for the top ag news stories of the day, but we're also going to hear from Matt Makens of Makens Weather today. I talked to him at the cattle convention last week. He's going to talk about the weather forecast for, Eastern Canada, Central Canada, Western Canada, and we've got some U.S. stuff worked in there as well. We're also going to hear from Jason Deveau of Omafra, and he's going to talk about spray drones and how, there's some barriers to entry here. We may not see drones spraying crops on farms as quickly as maybe some think. There are some barriers. He does a really good job of going through it. We're also going to hear about tillage related to soybean production. Horst, Bohner, and Rob Templeman of Omafra are going to talk about how no-till works, but a little tillage can help, which is a recent Soybean School episode, and you can check out that video by going to soybeanschool.com. If you have any feedback on today's show, you can send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. You can also find us across all the different social media platforms. You're also welcome to call the RealAg feedback line. It is 855-776-6147. Had a bit of a, quiet weekend. And part of the reason it was quiet, no football. Oh my goodness gracious. The Pro Bowl does not count. I could care less about the NHL All-Star game. To me, the only All-Star game that I actually do watch or will try or attempt to watch is the baseball one. The rest of these are just garbage. Oh, terrible. Terrible. And people pay for it. That's the worst part to go. You're going to say, oh, Shaun, you're being so negative. I just don't get it. But yeah, we got one more football game, and it's next week. We'll make sure when we do our Friday Issues panel, we get some Super Bowl predictions from the panel, but maybe some of the guests throughout the week as well. Okay, let's take a break, and when we come back, we're going to get rolling with some weather forecast with Matt Makens of Makens Weather right after this. Today's show is brought to you by Alltech. Encourage you to go to alltech.com. Also joining us right now, it is Martha Baker, and she is the Alltech sales manager. Now, Aglin, that's the product?
So Aglin is a new product. It is a blend of essential oils, so it's an all-natural product, non-antibiotic, non-synthetic product. And what it does is on a dairy side, it increases fat protein corrected milk flow by 2 to 4 pounds, 1 to 2 kilos, with like 99% repeatability. On the beef side, what we see is an improvement in feed efficiency, upwards of 7%. We see an increase in ADG and fewer days on feed.
Feed additive then, or how are we incorporating it into the to the animal?
Yeah, it is a feed additive. The feed rate's only 1 gram per head on a dairy side and 200 milligrams per kilo of body weight on the beef side.
You buy one skin of that stuff and it's lasted a long time.
It does. It does, absolutely.
Through a growing storm of kochia, cleavers, chickweed, and more, there's a clear path. Introducing Oxbow, a versatile cereal broadleaf herbicide that gets the job done. Powered by Duplisan technology, Oxbow is your workhorse on resistant kochia and other tough weeds. With flexibility in timing, rates, and recropping options, your path is clear. Find your way on the path of least resistance at newfarm.ca/Oxbow.
Welcome back to RealAg Radio here on Agronomic Monday. You know, nitrogen fertilizer, it's your farm's number one expense. Farmers are working together through Genesis Fertilizers to solve the problem of high prices and security of supply by planning a state-of-the-art nitrogen plant. Security and earnings through ownership is the solution. Visit Genesis today at genesisfertilizers.com to learn more. Well, as we head into the 2024 growing season, all eyes, of course, they're on Mother Nature. And listen, is she going to help us out? Will she be a hindrance? And depending on where you are in North America, you probably are cheering for something maybe a little bit different than some of the other areas. When I was at CattleCon 2024 in Orlando, Florida, I had a chance to catch up with Matt Makens of Makens Weather out of Denver, Colorado. And Matt and I chatted about what we can expect for a forecast across Canada. Let's dig in here. You know, a lot of talk about here cow herd numbers, and let's be honest, the market is signaling that you should retain some more females. The reality is, for a lot of ranchers, at least on the western half of the United States and in western Canada, we need some rain in order to make the grass, in order for producers to feel confident to do so. You and I last chatted probably just over a month ago, and dryness is still, a lot hasn't changed. We had a bit of a warm spurt, for sure, in Western Canada and the Northern Plains. And here we sit still waiting for moisture. What's the update on the situation?
It's, in some cases, it's roughly the same, just sped ahead by a couple of weeks. Because in the last discussion, we talked about, we get periods of moisture, especially BC, and the mountains can at times, if BC doesn't steal it all. Yeah. But the transition we chatted about going back to La Nina, it's happening. It's happening quick. We're losing all that El Nino momentum, if you will. So the transitional period is actually can be a good period for the prairies. Getting into the mountains, not necessarily east, there's a minimal impact there, but by that transition, I mean, the faster we get into the La Nina, you're almost reversing the precip pattern. So we're going to catch it on that swing as it comes back up to the north. So late spring, early summer, I see hopeful signs of getting some water on a lot of the prairies. Whereas I believe the last time we chatted, it was kind of more, a little bit maybe later in the summer, so not as well timed. But as long as the speed of this transition occurs as it looks like it will today, we're going to catch some of that water swinging up out of the States, get it into kind of the west, May, June-ish.
Okay, May better. Like I was going to say, pre-June 1st, I think is ideal. A lot of ranchers I talk to, they'll say, okay, what did Matt say? Because if we get a lot of rainfall and it happens in July, August, we're past the window. Right? We need grass earlier in the season, and because it gets so hot, once we get to July, we need that rain in June. So you're telling me there is a chance?
Yeah, like as you look progressively through May into early June, there's a pretty pronounced odds in favor of wetness. And I'm not like, not everybody's getting covered in rain, but the odds, the frequency of rain dramatically increases in that period. So, bottom line for everybody, your odds are much better in May and early June. I mean, the wet season is kind of the summer, and that's misleading because, maybe it's the wet season, but for a lot of us in this industry, I don't care about the wet season. I care about the first day of the wet season. It better be wet already to help things out for the rest of the year.
Between now and planting time, what can we expect on the western half? Because it's been interesting, it's been volatile, right? We went from, let's just talk Fahrenheit for a second, we went from minus 50 in Montana and Alberta, right? Then 10 days later, we're talking 55 degrees, 60 degrees, and kids are playing baseball outside. What's happening?
When we start to bottle up cold around the pole and Siberia, this happens throughout October as snow is falling over, you're bottling up that cold. And once you hit January, February, March, April, all you need is a connection to that cold. Grab it and bring it our way. Because we don't have snowpack. It's pretty brown in a lot of places. So we're not trapping the cold here, so we have to send it in. So in early January, there was kind of a weakening of the pole, if you will, the winds up there, and that allowed some of that cold air to kind of seep our way. We may see that again tail end of February, early March. The probability kind of looks like it's a lesser impact of cold than what we had in January, but potentially another cold spell is what I'm getting at. And with that, you would hope there'd be some moisture, but the cold stuff is really dry air. So once we get past February, get into March, that's when we're going to see those odds of the potential of grabbing this cold really start to drop off. Like it's got to happen next month, 6 weeks or so, for that true cold to move in.
Let's jump over to the eastern side of the country. And Eastern Canada, different story. It's something the opposite end of the spectrum. I've been talking to some ranchers in the Maritimes, and they've been saying, Sean, we got enough moisture. Like, it can stop. We have had 3, actually last night I was having a drink with a rancher, and she was in New Brunswick. 3 major rain events here just recently. What's happening there, and can we expect a bit of a back off, or is this going to continue?
It backs off somewhat. It's kind of part of the early winter season of the storms kind of coming from the Pacific Northwest of the state. So around Vancouver, down toward Portland and Seattle, those kind of areas. They kind of start there, and then they go south of the prairies into the states. They grab water from the Gulf of Mexico, start throwing it at areas like here, Florida, up the East Coast, and then they can dump a lot of snow, or rain in this case, around the Great Lakes towards the Maritimes. It's just part of the storm flow that we have when there's El Nino present in the early season. As we go through, say, the next several weeks into the next few months, most of that storm flow doesn't really favor the Pacific Northwest or BC anymore. It favors California and kind of flatlines right across the southern states, and then curls up, and that's more of a time where you can get, we call nor'easters in the New England states, and you can throw a lot of water over the Maritimes as well. But that becomes less and less likely later in the season. They're very wet. Their soils are saturated, and they've been for a couple of years. But really, I mean, they could share. I mean, there's got to be a way. We'll find a way. I know diesel prices are high, but let's bottle water there and ship it west or something.
We were talking about a water pipeline.
Yeah.
It's hard to get pipelines built in North America now. Maybe we'll get one built for sharing some water. Central Canada, Ontario. What I've been hearing from a lot of farmers in southwestern Ontario is the fact there's not a lot of snow on the ground. What's your thoughts there on the weather patterns?
That's all tied to El Nino. If you look at all El Ninos, or just those that are most similar to this one we're in, the snow is much, much lower throughout all of Canada and the northern U.S. You bring those down, 60, 70, 80% of average. So that's I hate to say normal for El Nino, but that's normal. Your temperatures are milder. You don't get that snowfall. It stays down to your south. So that, to me, is not surprising. The other side of that is what could that do to us down the road? As we hit spring thaw, go into summer, sometimes it's nice to have that snow slowly melt, gets into dugouts, helps surface water. If it's not there, probably not this year because it's so soggy, but you can run into the stream flow, the dugout water issues, even back there.
Yeah. Okay, between now and planting, spring, North America, what are the triggers, the points we're looking for here to give us an indication what this is going to look like?
Early season forages, oats, wheat, whatever it may be, grasses look good. Early hay, a couple first cuttings should be good. You look at corn, and you're probably going to hear the opposite side. You're going to hear, we're pretty dry right now. We're in a drought. We're trying to start this year's corn in a drought. We've got to get the water coming. And then it's going to come to summer, and we're going to be talking about the timing of rainfall. It's like, well, we're starting to get the rains, but they got to be well timed for us.
We're going to try to kill this corn crop again, aren't we?
And then late in the season, we'll start getting more plentiful moisture coming in, and the people are going to say, well, I got to cut it now so we can turn the rain off. So bottom line is wet in the prairies early on, dry late in the year, and the opposite for corn. Kind of dry early and wetter as the season goes on.
That was Matt Makens of Makens Weather. I talked to him at the cattle convention last week in Orlando, Florida. So, hey, Western Canadian listeners, it's getting better. There's an opportunity. Please let this come through. Please, please, please. It would obviously really help the ranchers out there, as well as much of the cropland as well. And we heard Atlantic Canada there, which has been so wet. As I mentioned to Matt, I had a conversation with a rancher who talked about like major rain events, and the tap will not shut off. Matt kind of thought my pipeline joke was pretty funny there too. Always great to talk to Matt Makens from Makens Weather. Okay, we're going to put the weather aside for a second, and when we come back, we're going to hear a discussion that Bernd Tobin of Real Agriculture had with Jason Deveau from Omafra, talking about spray drones. And how soon could they be coming to Canadian farms? Maybe not as quick as some think. You're listening to RealAg Radio, Rural Radio 147.
Co-op knows your community because we live here too. Our teams are your trusted partners with a range of expertise to help support your entire farm operation. And we're giving back. In the past 5 years, Co-op has invested over $1.1 billion in the prairies through building, upgrading, and expanding local facilities. And we've returned over $1.17 billion to Co-op members in the prairies. Co-op, we're all building something for the future. Here for your farm, here for your family. Learn more at coop.crs/farm.
Get all the information you need to keep your pulse crop healthy and profitable with the Pulse School on RealAgriculture.com. The Pulse School is a free YouTube video series covering agronomy, research, and more across a host of different pulse crops. It's also available as an audio podcast wherever you download or stream your favorite podcast. Check us out on YouTube or visit RealAgriculture.com. The Pulse School, brought to you by BSF Canada.
There's power, and then there's superpower. Advancing the unstoppable superpower of pre-seed from New Farm. Take control. Eliminate weed competition and start clean in spring. Manage weeds early in canola, cereals, and pulses. Conquer, Goldwing, Thunderhawk, and Blackhawk EVO. Convenient formulations and multiple modes of action. Add more power to glyphosate, more benefits to your burn down. Go to newfarm.ca/burn down.
Is running out to register for the 2024 Crop Connect Conference. Join the industry February 14th and 15th at Victoria Inn and Convention Center in Winnipeg for insightful speakers, crop-specific information, networking, and more. Register today at cropconnectconference.ca. I've been talking about this. Valentine's Day in Winnipeg at the Victoria Inn. You get to spend time with a loved one, and you get to go to an agriculture convention. It's like the best of both worlds. So please check it out. CropConnectConference.ca. Bern Tobin of Real Agriculture had a chance to talk to Jason Deveau from Omafra. I had a great time with I ran into Jason at Agritechnica, and we were in the sprayer area there. We had a great chat. But Bern chatted with him recently at the Ontario Ag Conference, talking about spray drones. And, at Agritechnica, there was a lot of discussion about drones. And we stopped at the DGI booth. They had some monster drones there. There's other companies doing it too. But regulation, issue, yes, challenge. So is that the hang-up? Or are there other barriers? Bern and Jason talked about it. Here they are.
Today, we're going to talk about drones and where these unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, fit on the farm, specifically when it comes to spraying crops. As of January 2024, it is still illegal for farmers to apply crop protection products, herbicides, and fungicides with a drone, but many are eager to give it a shot. When it comes to spraying with drones, however, regulators, have been slow to give the green light for takeoff. To talk about the drone revolution and why it may be some time before farmers get a chance to spray, I'm joined by my guest. He is Omafra's application technology specialist, Jason Deveau. We know him as the spray guy. Hi, Jason. Hey, thanks for dropping by.
Hi, Bern. Thanks for having me.
Now, Jason, what really sparked this conversation for me, was the presentation you delivered at the Ontario Agricultural Conference in January. You set out to share all the latest research and data on how drones could revolutionize spraying, but you decided to take a different direction. What happened?
Yeah, I pulled an audible. I worked over the Christmas break gathering all the data from all the groups that I'd worked with over the last few months, and I had a lot of really great graphs. And when I looked closely at it, I realized I think I was doing everybody a disservice, because all that data would give the impression that we know what we're doing with drones. And I pulled the pin at the last minute and decided, instead of showing all that data and I think misleading an audience, let's talk to them about what we don't know about drones. So it changed the tone of the whole talk, and I'm glad it went that way.
Yeah. Now, you said, there's a number of factors that complicate drone application. Let's start with the drone technology. You said in your presentation, it's not simple technology. It's not like flying a helicopter.
No, not at all. And that's the first thing people say is, we can spray from a helicopter. Why can't we spray from a drone? They're the same thing. Well, they're not, for one simple reason. When a helicopter is spraying, it's at full velocity and there's no downwash. That is to say, there's no downward wind. Sure, if a helicopter is hovering, you're going to see a lot of wind produced that'll drive spray down. But if you ever watch a helicopter spraying, once it reaches full speed, the spray just pours out behind like a plane or like Superman's cape. On the other hand, rotary drones, no matter how fast they fly, always create a downwash, and that's going to affect how droplets move.
Now, what are some of the other factors, Jason, that complicate flight? Speed, weight, wind, altitude. Hey, a lot to consider.
It is, and we won't get into all of it here, but I'll tap on the big ones. Anyone that's spraying from a drone will want to get a little extra altitude, because the higher you are, ideally, the wider your swath or the area that you cover. But the cost of doing that is your spray's in the air a long time, and a lot of stuff will drift or escape the spray. So that's no good. We need to find that balance. The speed that you fly also has an impact on the swath, or the shape of the spray that hits the ground. Right now, we think the faster you fly or the more headwind, the wider the swath, and vice versa. And the weight of the drone creates that pressure, that downwash, in tandem with what the rotors are producing. And that's not fixed either. You fly out full, you come back empty. That means that downward pressure changes while you're flying. And each of those rotors, they're not even spinning at the same speed. That's what allows them to fly so eerily straight. So all these variables are changing constantly, and we honestly don't know what each of them do relative to the others and how that affects coverage. It's still the Wild West out there.
Now, you also have, the crop to contend with, right? Canopy, row direction, and factoring all that in, to figure out what that most effective swath width is for the spray.
Yeah, bang on. So best practices, best we understand it now, is to kind of emulate planes and helicopters. We do something called a fly-in. You spray water onto some sort of water-sensitive target or something that shows dye, and you go, okay, I'm covering so many feet or meters of width. And you work all that out on bare earth or maybe stubble, then you fly into the crop. And that affects your swath in all kinds of crazy ways. We don't even know if it's better to fly with a row or against a row. And all of this is still kind of spraying in a vacuum because we've got ambient wind, we've got obstacles, topography, and it all impacts ultimately where the spray goes and where it doesn't.
Mm-hmm. No, I think from that, your conclusion at this point, our drones are sloppy, and the coverage can be highly variable, and we also have to take in herbicide labels, right? The actives and how they are formulated, and how do you formulate a product for drone spraying? Another challenge.
Sure, let's tap on both of those. Yeah, drones can produce a pretty sloppy pattern. We're getting a better idea how to contend with that, but it's not like any other spray application. It's a very high peak and a very narrow span. So just imagine a bunch of shark's teeth. We really do need to work harder to figure out what swath width really is. As for the formulation, we're spraying almost neat. The biggest drone I've worked with holds 50 liters, and that brings us down to mix numbers here, 2 or maybe 5 gallons per acre. We'd prefer to see 5, but of course the growers want to push down to 2. And that means you're spraying some pretty viscous stuff that's not diluted, and there's no recirculation on these drones, no agitation. So it may require changes to formulation to get these products to work the way they would in a plane, in a helicopter, or a field sprayer.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's talk about overall performance here. You've done some comparisons. How do drones compare to a John Deere sprayer with a 100-foot swath, for example?
Well, I have been privy to some efficacy trials with agrochemical companies, and I won't get into that. But I will talk about what we saw with, let's say, tar spot's a good example for this. Tar spot, everyone hates tar spot. I don't hate tar spot. Tar spot turns a field of corn into water-sensitive paper for me. Mm-hmm. So here's what we saw as far as a physiological response. The 100-foot John Deere sprayer spraying fungicide did a great job battling tar spot, nice green corn. The drones, which I helped with Drone Spray Canada figure out what the best effective swath width was, we flew an out and back, 5 gallons an acre and 3 gallons an acre, and we saw striping. That is to say, we saw green corn and then gray and then green, which means those two swaths didn't intersect with each other. We had gaps. And it surprised both of us because we kind of skinned it a little bit and made sure we used the smallest swath we thought would be effective, and it was still smaller than that. And just to be fair, it's not just drones we're seeing this with. Helicopters and planes spraying for tar spot are also seeing striping because the dose response is so acute. If you miss, you can see that you missed. So I won't speak to efficacy, which is kind of surprising me that in some cases they are quite efficacious, but based on coverage and that physiological response, we got a long way to go.
Now, it looks like, we have to have some work to do, as you said, to get drones spraying herbicide on farm. You wrapped up your presentation with a list of things you feel, needs to happen before farmers can fly drones, with confidence. Run us through those.
Sure. And just like you said, this is my opinion, and opinions are worth what you paid for, and this one's free. There are a number of things that I think the PMRA needs before they're going to expand the registration of a label for drones. First thing we're waiting on is this international best practices document from the OECD. And I believe the 3rd version of that is out as of a couple weeks ago. We're going to review that, and that's international opinion on what's important with drones. Don't drift, no operator exposure, stuff like that. We are going to need operator exposure data. This isn't like any other method. With the exception of backpack sprayers, I can't think of any other time that you're going to bodily pick up the sprayer after you're done with it and throw it in the back of a truck. So we need to figure out, do you need full Tyvek, gloves? How does that work with the control panel? All still being done. And comparative efficacy. Does it work? In Canada, to register a product, we have to compare it against a known standard, and we're doing that now. And that's pretty much driven by the agrochemical companies, and they're all performing their own in-house studies. And we need residue data. Sure, I'm happy to eat that apple. Is there any more product left on it than there would be from a conventional method? Ag Canada took the lead on this. That data is all coming in now. I did the coverage part of that. 5 other PIs flew those trials in 4 different vegetable and fruit crops. So that information's coming too. We need drift data, not just for bystander and, open water in places we don't want it to go, but just to understand what kind of buffer zones we might need. And that's an international effort that's going on with the Spray Drift Task Force all over the world. We should find out about that in the next 2 years. We need standard training, PETC in Canada. Think about Ontario Pest Education Program. We have to teach operators how to handle products safely for different agrochemical equipment. And right now they've only got their first draft on best practices there. I'm hoping to see that soon. And finally, it should be noted, it's not just Health Canada that's holding the reins on spraying from drones. It's Transport Canada because, you're in the air with this vehicle. And full credit to them, they came out of the gate running hard when this first emerged, when we started using optics on drones. And even that is changing now. How heavy can a drone be before you need a special flight operations certificate? And we're waiting on something called Gazette 2 to tell us about changes to registration and what pilots need to do to fly and spray these. Because right now, if you hired someone to spray, and don't, because it's illegal in Canada, come out next week. Yep, I'll put in my request. We should hear back in 3 months. Not terribly helpful. So, we have a lot to learn on how quickly there's a turnaround in permission as well.
As you say, a lot to do. What's your best guess on when it gets done when we fly drones on farm?
You're going to hold me to this? I'm going to look back and regret this, aren't I? So it's 2024 right now. I'd be shocked to see one come out in 2 years. So 2026. And I don't expect it to be a herbicide. I expect it to be a fungicide.
Yeah,
now, before I just want to tap on this, people are going to think I'm singing doom and gloom. We are talking about broadcast arable land field crop applications. I think there's great utility in drones. At the moment, I don't think it's nice, even, uniform coverage in a broadcast style crop. I think it could be spot spraying or, rough terrain or even horticultural crops where you just want to hit right over a planted banded row. And that information's coming out too. So there aren't many people doing this research, but we're all talking and we're all learning, and it seems every 3 months something new comes to light. So we're making progress.
And in the grand scheme of things, 2 years isn't a long time. So hopefully get it done. I would encourage everyone to visit the Ontario Agricultural Conference website and check out Jason's full presentation. It's fascinating stuff. And Jason, you also have some other resources available at Sprayers 101 that farmers can tap into.
Yeah, it's been a little while, but we just produced another Exploding Sprayer Myths, and in the spirit of parody, and thanks to Byrne here, we knocked off Top Gun. So if anyone wants to go watch a lighthearted explanation of best practices with drones, viewer discretion, there's some dad bods in there at the end. But I do recommend you go check it out on RealAgriculture.com or Sprayers 101. Give you a laugh, and you'll learn something.
It was fun and very educational. Jason, always appreciate you making some time for Real Agriculture.
That was Byrne Tobin of Real Agriculture talking to Jason Deveau of Omafra. Well, what Jason said there makes a lot of sense. I'm curious what you have to say. What do you think? Are you excited about the potential to spray with drones? Are there certain applications of drone spraying where if you could do it, you would? And what are the situations where you wouldn't? I'd love to hear from you. Send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. You deal with many uncertainties on your farm. Managing risk should not be one of them. MMP's Ag Team specializes in risk management. Visit mmp.ca to learn how you can stay ahead of the game and plan for the unknown. That's mmp.ca. When we come back on RealAg Radio, up next, we've got a conversation with Horst Bohner from Omafra as well. Now, he's going to talk about tillage and soybeans. No-till works, but a little tillage can also help. This is going to give you no-tillers the shivers. You're listening to RealAg Radio, Rural Radio 147.
If you have a growing list of questions about getting more from your fields, know that Koch Agronomic Services has an answer for every acre. With a full spectrum of nutrient management, nutrient protection, and seed enhancement options, Koch Agronomic Services offers a deep portfolio of agronomically effective products. Each designed to enhance yield potential, all available to help solve your problems. Find the answer that's right for your acres. Start by visiting kochag.ca. That's KOCH ag.ca.
FP Genetics relentlessly brings innovative new seed genetics to Canadian farms, ensuring growers, breeders, and farmers are supported and viable. Being a valued partner on your farm for decades, you can expect the continuous pursuit of the best genetics. Visit fpgenetics.ca to discover FP's strong portfolio of wheat, durum, barley, oats, peas, and rye, or contact your local FP seed dealer or territory manager to discuss your certified seed strategy specific to your region.
Co-op knows your community because, well, quite frankly, we live here too. Our teams are your trusted partners with a range of expertise to help support your entire farm operation. Co-op. It's here for your farm, here for your family. Learn more by going to co-op.crs/farm. Well, on a recent soybean school, which is, of course, brought to you by BSF Canada and Syngenta Canada, it's interesting. We talk about no-till all the time, right? Well, Omafra's Horst Bohner and also Rob Templeman. Now, they've been leading the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, Omafra, the soybean research and extension efforts there for quite some time. And Bernd Tobin catched up with them for this soybean school episode, which honestly has taken off on YouTube. You can check out the video there or find it at soybeanschool.com. Let's hear the conversation about tillage.
Rob, it's a real pleasure to be with you here today. We're at your farm. You farm with your two sons close to Staffa. And when we're looking at these beans right here just outside the shop, gorgeous looking beans, tall, and we expect a real nice yield here. And of course, in this field, you've done the old twin row situation. And Rob, a lot of guys are still fighting with corn residue when they have big corn crops. So why have you gone down this road of twin rows?
Well, we struggle with residue, and now corn yields are even higher.
Right.
Once you get over 200 bushel corn yields, you've got a lot of residue to deal with.
Right.
And my experience with no-till over the years has been the further I can be away from the residue,
okay,
the better my stand's going to be. And we like to plant soybeans inside those both rows, and no depth wheels on the corn stalks, so that it's got a nice clear track. So we have a planter converted to 7.5-inch spacing, twin rows, and it so we had to do some modifications. There's a special tongue on it. Everything had to be shifted, but other than that, it's pretty well stock. And 7.5-inch rows right between the rows. We use RTK for guidance, so we can run pretty well right down the center all the time. And we have had essentially no problems with stands since. And our depth is consistent because we're not running on the stalks or root balls.
And that's straight no-till. You're not doing any pre-tillage there?
Straight no-till and corn stalks.
Okay.
Straight no-till.
And so when you're seeding those beans in the spring, then you're able to, because of the RTK, stay right off the corn rows, and you feel that is really what's helping you out in terms of keeping with true no-till. Because we still have guys, that are getting 250 bushel corn now, right? And they say, I just can't do it anymore with all this residue. Right. But what's really interesting in this field is that now we're close to harvest. There's not a lot of residue left here when you look down the row, eh?
Not too much. Enough to know that it was a corn crop.
Yeah, but that's about it.
That's about it.
It's kind of disappeared largely.
That was good yielding corn, and last year you would have looked like there was residue everywhere, but we find all the small residue, the small stems, all that by spring is almost irrelevant. And the only thing we're worried about is the coarse stem at the ground and the root balls. And we're not playing with them. We just leave them. Then we roll it after. It knocks them down. And we have no problem at harvest. And it's the simplest route we've been able to get to for soybeans to give us a consistent good yield.
Okay, so now when we're looking at this machine here, this is a Kinsey machine, and you're doing the twins. You're also planting your corn with this machine. How do you, like, some guys get frustrated with this twin rows situation and then planting corn. How do you guys handle that?
Well, with corn, we of course lock up the front gangs, so we just have the rows at the back to plant corn, and then we can put an offset into our RTK, which keeps us on line at 30 inches all the way across. And so we don't have to run the markers and play with them all the time, because it does shift the planter over without the twin row at the front planting. But it does. Our biggest concern about planting corn and beans with the same planters, the corn units are getting corn acres plus they get the bean acres as well. So we try and keep track of the acres planted so we can keep the wear under control and keep everything in good shape. So, and the boys are good at that.
You have a little different rotation here. Corn, soybeans, wheat, followed by beans again, either edibles or soybeans. And in that scenario, you also still use the drill sometimes. You've got a 1590 John Deere drill. Let me ask you first, Rob, are you comfortable planting, or seeding rather, right into corn stalks, big corn stalks with that 1590 drill? Or is the answer, hey, we've moved to a Kinsey, figure it out, right?
Well, and I think that's the answer. Part of the reason we have the twin row planter is simply for beans and corn stalks. We'll use it anywhere, but that would be the primary purpose. And I see a lot of guys do a good job with drills in corn stalks. I never liked the look of corn or beans that had to come up on the corn rows. With the drill, planting every. Now, there's certain things you can do. You 15-inch beans, you're still going to hit that corn row some most of the time. But if guys have set some of their drills up using them as a twin row drill and planting in between, and that would be a positive. If we were using the drill in corn stalks, that's probably the approach we would try. We do use the drill occasionally in beans, following wheat, and then the old cover crop, and that goes back into beans. And I know we push the rotation a little hard. We like bean acres. What we really like about corn going into bean ground is we're not dealing with wheat residue in corn. Soybeans seem to be able to handle our wheat residue because we keep the straw a little better than corn in the spring. And we found that time and time again. We've planted some corn after the wheat and the oats cover crop and straw left, but there's spots, and again, even the best residue spread is still just not so good residue spread some of the time.
So now you've left the wheat straw because you're a big proponent of not baling it off but leaving it for the organic matter, right? And then you're going into beans. So let's talk about this Kuhn piece of vertical tillage equipment that you've got over here, and tell me your feeling about that piece of equipment. So Rob, we're in front of this Kuhn here now, a newer machine for you. You had the previous model before. Now, when do you run this machine?
Well, I'll address the part that we had one before, and like the basic machine, they made about 4 or 5 changes to it. I think we had the other one for 8 years, and then this one, and went back to the same machine, which is not what usually happens in today's world. There's all sorts of vertical tillage machines, and I think that label is a little broad anymore.
It is.
This is so-called vertical tillage because it doesn't have big angles on the disc or concaves. We use this after wheat stubble with the straw.
To work in the residue.
And plant the oats, and it works the oats in for cover crop as well. So one pass does the sort of mix the residue with the oats, and then we have our cover crop in as well, and then we use it in the spring. There's 2 things we use it for. We incorporate lightly the fertilizer before corn. So the broadcast fertilizer is incorporated lightly before corn, one pass. Shallow, which incorporation is debatable how much.
Right.
But
you're going shallow, right?
Yes,
I mean,
yeah,
this is not deep.
No, we never go below seed bed depth.
Right.
We always try and stay above that. And then the spring, before putting the beans in the wheat stubble, when we go back to beans, we also will run it lightly again.
Right.
And we've debated whether or not to do that or not. It works. And we always say we're going to try and leave some and not do that and see how it is strictly stale seed bed.
But you're like everybody else.
Yeah,
so once you start, where do you stop?
It's
right?
a great winter idea. But comes
Yeah.
spring and sometimes simpler is better, you think, just to keep going.
Yeah. And it is a beautiful piece of equipment in terms of the length, right? I mean, that must do something to how the residue flows.
Yes.
We've got some finger tines here.
Yes.
And so what are they in there for?
Well, I just call them deflectors.
Okay. Okay.
I think they help because the stuff that comes, the residue coming off the front is in the air. This gets everything down before it gets to the back, of course, because we're running about 8 miles an hour. And it makes it sort of, I think it helps with the job. The discs are also offset now. They're narrower on the front between spacing than they are at the back, which means it can't track. It can't just follow. It can't follow its own groove, so to speak, which occasionally happened with the old one, but probably was happening more than we knew a little bit, because this seems to mix better again as well.
So when we look at the back of this machine, we've got these. What did you call these? These are the rolling.
I call them star wheels.
Star wheels.
And I think that's what the company calls them, but we're going to call them star wheels.
Okay.
And we run them with very little down pressure. Actually, essentially none. Just at their own weight. You could put down pressure on them, but because we are going so shallow, we try and not put a lot of pressure on them. They do a great job, but another rolling harrow might do as well. I don't know.
Well, I noticed. I mean, it has another nice rolling basket at the back.
Yes, and the rolling basket used to have flat, and now they're round bar. They used to be flat bar.
Yeah. But now you can't adjust the pressure on those, though.
No.
They just
do their thing and bobble along. We now have more adjustment hydraulically. It used to be manual. That's nice for an old guy like me. And we also have wing down pressure that is not a shear pin anymore.
Okay.
So it's all hydraulic backflow. So it keeps it at the wings are held so they can float.
So you made the comment earlier to me that in an ideal world, we would we wouldn't do any tillage.
No.
Right? I mean, what did you mean by that? And if that's true, why do you have this piece of equipment here?
Well, in my previous life, I became convinced that in a perfect world, no-till would be the answer.
Right.
The problem is we don't live in a perfect world, and dealing with higher crop yields, more residue, we sort of need to play with what we call no-till. Our only no-till piece of equipment is our drill and our planter. What we do in between to manage residue, we use this machine on the wheat stubble. And it's only used basically in the wheat crop and before corn, simply to incorporate some of the broadcast fertilizer. And we like it. I think all machines can do some of what you want very well, and they do some of what you want maybe not quite as well as you'd like. So people change machines. I don't think you find your answer by changing machines.
Is it fair, though, to say that your overall philosophy is to use as little tillage as necessary, but here we go, you do feel that some is necessary in your cropping system?
Yes. Is
that fair?
Yes, Horst. In order to maintain the yields levels we like to see, we need to always be cognizant of the residue and try and either mix it in a little bit, especially in the wheat and straw in the summer with the oats. And the oats cover crop also helps the breakdown. It does disappear fairly well in the course of a year. But we play with it a little bit. I would love to do none.
Right.
I mean,
ideally, sure.
Yes.
Who doesn't want to just drive in and plant?
Well,
ideally.
I don't need more seat time this time in my life.
That was Horst Bohner and Rob Templeman with Omafra talking in our latest soybean school. And of course, like I said, you can find that by going to soybeanschool.com. A lot of people have been watching that video. Very, very cool stuff. Great work by Bern Tobin of Real Agriculture. Okay, when we come back, we've got the top ag news stories of the day. You're listening to Real Ag Radio, Rural Radio 147.
CDC Endure is a new oat line from Alliance Seed. High yielding with excellent disease resistance and the quality end users ask for, all in one great oat variety. CDC Endure provides the high beta-glucan levels to make heart-healthy products like breakfast cereals. For more information on CDC Endure oats, as well as any other products from Alliance Seed, check out allianceseed.com or visit any Alliance Seed authorized retailers.
What's next for your fields? At Pioneer, delivering industry-leading genetics drives everything we do. From the scientists in the lab to our local teams with boots on the ground. We are determined to get there first. Developing top-performing products, proven in more growing conditions than ever before. Pioneer. What's next happens here. Visit pioneer.com/Canada to learn more.
It's now time for the top ag news stories of the day here on Real Ag Radio. Listen, get back to the basics with the Sask Soil Health Conference, February 13th and 14th at Prairie Land Park in Saskatoon. Learn from knowledgeable speakers, take in a producer panel, and network with your peers in this informative two-day event. Learn more at sasksoil.ca/soil health conference. Okay, top ag news stories of the day here on this Monday. And up first, Tyson Foods exceeded market expectations in its first quarter revenue and profit report. However, the company mentioned that it is still evaluating its operations following the closure of several chicken plants in the United States over the past year. Yeah, the poultry business really helped Tyson out. The beef business was dragging those Tyson earnings down. Speaking of cattle markets, bullish cash cattle expectations this week. Packers actively raised cash cattle prices last week and bought a lot of cattle. While that could slow their appetite for the cattle this week, it also indicated that they were more short bought on near-term slaughter needs than expected. On the hog front, cash hogs climbed while pork cutout stabilized. The CME lean hog index is up another 41 cents to 73.12 as of February 1st, continuing the seasonal climb over the past month, and is now 27 cents above last year at this time. A lot of people talking on the economic front about Federal Reserve Chair Jay Powell being on 60 Minutes last night. In an interview, he says he expects 3 rate cuts in 2024. Powell confirmed in a Sunday interview on CBS, the CBS Sunday show, 60 Minutes. Now, he also talked about how the central bank's rate setters still anticipate making approximately 3/4 point rate cuts in 24. Powell mentioned that nearly all members of the Federal Open Market Committee, the FOMC, expect the Fed to reduce rates from their current range of 5.25%, 5.5% at some point this year. Although new projections are set to be released on March 20th, Powell stated that nothing significant has occurred since December that would prompt a dramatic shift in the forecast. Now, a lot of people are thinking at the end of December that we could see upwards of 6 cuts. That has definitely been shaved here in the early part of 2024. It makes you wonder if the data stays the same as it is now, could we see even less than 3 rate cuts this year? Like maybe 3 is too many. This is fun to follow and watch, and obviously fun from this perspective of interesting, because I know a lot of it does impact your cash outlay from a borrowing perspective. You're on top of this too. China is planning to further develop high-yield crop varieties as part of its efforts to increase agricultural production. According to state media reports citing a rural policy document, China aims to boost domestic production and reduce its reliance on imports by focusing on biotechnology and mechanization in agriculture. The policy blueprint from the State Council emphasizes stabilizing the area used for grain cultivation, improving crop yields, and promoting the use of agricultural machinery and equipment. And some of those biotechnology pieces to that and the mechanization components of that will be made in China. You can definitely attest to or believe in that. Former President Trump floats higher tariffs on Chinese goods if reelected. In response to a Washington report about considering a flat 60% tariff on Chinese imports, Trump stated in an interview on Fox News Sunday morning futures that it might actually be higher than that. He dismissed concerns about sparking a trade war, emphasizing his aim is to hold China accountable for what he perceives as an unfair advantage. If you have any feedback on today's show, we would love to hear from you, of course. You can get a hold of us in numerous ways. One way is to send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. You can also find us across all the different social media applications, or if you're so inclined, you can always call the RealAg feedback line. It is 855-776-6147. Hey, thanks everybody for getting real and getting connected with RealAg Radio. Chat again tomorrow. Cheers, everybody.
Thank you for downloading this episode of the RealAg Radio podcast, brought to you by Authority 480 Herbicide from FMC. Authority 480 Herbicide delivers outstanding control of the toughest broadleaf weeds in wheat, pulse crops, flax, mustard, and more. See your local retailer today for more information.